Is Hanna Blomdahl, and I'm a part of the management team at Lindholmen Science Park. Lindholmen Science Park is the neutral collaboration arena assigned both to support the development of the area and the ecosystem of companies here at Lindholmen, and also to boost the competitiveness of Sweden through innovation program and projects.
Good morning, or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. I'm Stefan Lundin, and I'm the head of communications for Geely in Sweden, but here representing the Uni 3 by Geely campus, which is a corporate campus that we have built here at Lindholmen, where we have some Geely companies, we have other tech-savvy tenants in the building, amongst them ECARX that we will be seeing shortly. But we also have great food, restaurants, event arenas, seminar facilities and so forth, in order to create the best home for innovators in this arena we have here. And we know that the international community is very interested in what's happening here in Gothenburg. And we thought, how could we reach out to the world and invite you people out there to take part of this? And also for the people in Gothenburg who are non-Swedish speaking, to create this great international arena. And we reached out to Lindholmen Science Park, and the result of this was this first initiative, Lindholmen International Talks. So,
this is the first event in a series of seminars that we imagine. And today's topic is the user-driven way to a successful company. And Lindholmen International Talks aims to inspire and attract people that are curious about this innovation hotspot in Gothenburg, but also to share experiences and stories within our community, of course. So we will soon listen to Karin Lycke, who is a service designer and UX expert. But first of all, we will invite Peter Rogbrant, the CEO of ECARX. So welcome to this broadcast, Peter. Or maybe you should say welcome, because we're at your office here at ECARX. Thank you very much. So you will give a short speech, and I will be back with some questions later on. Yeah, the floor is yours.
First of all, when it comes to user-driven design and development, I think that many different companies have different business models and different way to do business. You can have B2B or B2C, but all in the end, it's very important that you focus with the customer and the user-driven approach when you develop things. What does that mean then? For me and for us working in this industry, it's very important to not always do exactly what you've been told, that have innovation and explore the product. When it comes to user experience, for me, it's like what type of features or function do you provide to the end customer? It comes with what design do you give to the customer and what experience the customer will have from the product you're offering, and how easy is the product to explore and easy to learn and easy to operate. That for me is very important when you work with product development, which is user-driven, which we are doing in ECARX. When it comes to the auto industry in general, where I spend most of my time for the last 20 years, I think there are three areas that I really think have changed the game plan for making cars, but also other type of vehicles. Connectivity, autonomous driving, and not least electrification. And if we start with connectivity, it's a really good example of user-driven development. Like 10, 15 years back, the first connected cars were launched to the market. At that time, you tried to connect the user with the car by a mobile phone, by an app, or other ways to do it. The business in that segment really skyrocketing. Today, that is something we really just expect to be happening. Then a few years back, the autonomous driving is coming across, and this drives the user experience and the way to create the product in a very different way. It's a very advanced technology for a car maker to get a car to drive by itself. But for us then working as a tech company, it's very important to find what else can you do in the car if you succeed that level of self-driving car. What should the passenger do? What should the driver do? What can you else do? And that gives you plenty much opportunities to focus on service-driven approach and serve the end customer, not only with the vehicle, but also with the car. The last area where I have my big heart around right now is the electrification. I think everyone feels that this has really coming across quite quickly the last years. Every car maker dropping out number of cars per year going electrical. We also know that this gives us another approach on the user-driven world. We need to find a way to develop the car in a smart way so it's convenient for the driver to find charging stations or other related services. It's also an opportunity for us to look into the infrastructure around electrification, because for myself, driving an electrical car is not that easy always. There will be queues into the charging stations. Maybe you can offer something else then. It will be another way how you can charge and how you can build service around the charging situation. All this stuff comes with electrification, and I think it's really fantastic and a great opportunity to explore the user-driven approach when it comes to making technology around it. What is the key for success in the business? Maybe that is the Las Vegas question, but I think like this, that if you always have a clear mind on that, you work with innovation and make sure that you listen to the market, the competitors, and what is changing around you, you will probably be very good to develop a great product for the end consumer. If you are open-minded to not just do what is in the requirement, but feeling and get the touch of that is you can explore around it, it will be extremely more successful in the business model. It's also about digitalization and transformation. Every company today needs to transform into meet the three areas I said before: connectivity, autonomous driving, and electrification. And if you do that successfully, you also get a great product. And the end customer starts to be the consumer rather than fleet owners and other past way of doing business. So we, as consumers, appreciate the product in a different way. And if you find a business model that many car OEMs or car makers have done, you will be very successful. Last but not least on this area, I think also that a key is that you need to maintain the product over time. So when a traditional project many years back was done, the product was done. It's not that, like that anymore. Today you need to maintain the product, make the customer happy with the product after you have shipped the product or past the start of production. And you make it rich all the time. If you have a customer who loves the product after 3 years, I think you are successful in your product development. Not least, coming back a little bit what Stefan said here before, we're standing, and Hanna as well, we're standing here in our ECARX office at Unit 3 at Lindholmen, Gothenburg, Sweden. This is a fantastic place. I have seen this since this was just a piece of land, and I've been blessed to sit in at least 2 of the buildings so far, and we moved in here with ECARX in August last year. This is a great place to meet. It's a great place to eat, as Stefan said as well, but not least, there is great colleagues, there is partnerships, there is inspiration, and it's a great place to recruit talents to join our great company, ECARX. I love this spot, and I think it's a really good promotion for Gothenburg as an automotive cluster and to become a real tech campus and having partnership and other great stuff going on here. Summing up then, I think that the most thing that matters is really to have a really user-driven great product, simple like that, and happy people and right culture. Then the product will come by itself. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter.
Thank you.
Like you said, Lindholmen is one of the most dense places on earth when it comes to automotive and mobility companies, not at least the OEMs. How much would you say in your daily work, how much competition and how much cooperation is there?
I think it's a mix, right? As I said, I think competition is good, but it's also a lot of cooperation. I mean, we are very happy. We are part of a bigger cluster, and there are many companies here that we cooperate with. You have Geely, of course, here, and you have Volvo Cars, you have CVT next door, and we also have some partnership or joint venture between our companies. And I mean, to be successful, because we work sometimes in the same projects, sometimes we are actually competitors, but cooperation is really the key then, and find different ways to work together. Because in some segments, and what we do here at ECARX infotainment systems mainly, in my team here, there is a strong competition and we need to cooperate.
Could you elaborate a little bit on the infotainment system, your product? What is it?
It's a great product when it's done. Now we are developing a new platform together with our colleagues in China for being on the market next year. And yeah, it's gonna be an experience for the customers, right? And it's gonna be easy, it's gonna be nice looking, and it's hopefully gonna sit in a nice car as well. So yeah, we are very energized to do this job here and starting up this here from Lindholmen in Sweden.
Yeah, so you can find it in Volvo, Polestar.
I don't comment on what cars, to be honest. You will see later on then. So, but we are in the middle of the project, and hopefully many of our customers would like to have that infotainment system, and that is also our ambition.
But going back to cooperation, is it both within the Geely family, so to speak, or also outside with other parts of the cluster?
So ECARX from a big the big perspective, I mean, have many different partnerships, both in China and outside China, of course. And so I think it's both ways, right? So, I mean, we have a strong cooperation with how we do project together with the Geely group, of course, but also we work with others, right? And we also have some partnerships or joint ventures that we are tight and connected to. So it's a pretty big ecosystem, and ECARX is very large in China with this ecosystem, and cooperation is really the key to get on the edge when it comes to the technology. You cannot do everything yourself.
Yeah. So one area where it's difficult to avoid competition right now is recruiting and attracting talent. So how does that work within the cluster? What is the kind of culture on recruiting?
I don't know the culture, but it's no, but I think it's, I mean, we are handling that very professional, of course. I mean, it's we're doing everything by the book, right? And of course we do not with the people or the companies we work with, and or even if it's colleagues or customer, whatever, it's we don't approach any people. I mean, we do it by job ads and by our channels we are using in the global structure. So we run it like that, and then I think it's you should encourage people to move around, right, on their own will, because it's positive. I mean, you get experience from different angles. So, but you should do it in a way where you don't steal from each other, and we are not doing that.
So is it difficult to find the right people? And also, I'm thinking about the more technological side, on the more like we're talking about the UX and service design here today. Is it difficult for you to find the right competence? I
think it's a mix, right? I mean, we should also keep in mind that it's been quite tough times the last 2 years. I mean, you have not been able to reach out to universities or, you know, the traditional exhibitions and all that things. I mean, so, but I mean, and we have a quite here from Europe then, as I said, we work on an infotainment product. We are a little bit niche then, so you need to have competence who hopefully knows a little bit about that, a little bit about the car industry, and a lot about software development. And of course, that is a tough competition, right? But we're doing different ways to find that, right? And as I said as well, it's not only about us. We work as one team in ECARX, so we balance that also with our colleagues in China. So you cannot do everything in one spot, and I don't think that is good either. So we have a broader competence pool to take from.
So I know you have a background in the gaming industry as well. What did you learn from that experience?
Yeah, I think it was a fantastic year. I only was there 1 year, unfortunately. But no, but I think, I mean, coming back to my talk there, I mean, one thing that I really think is so great in the gaming industry is that they always have, as we call a shippable product, everyone working on the same goal, getting the game out, simple like that. And you also have this, what I said before, that you enrich the game all the time, right? You get out to the market with a launch, and the kids and adults as well can buy the game in the store, and then you play it, and then you maybe are satisfied after 2 months. But then it comes another update and another package, and they have found this way to keep the player in that sense very happy with the game and play it for many years. And they also found a business model with like in-game purchasing and so on forth, where they have made a totally different playground for how to make money on it. But from a customer-driven perspective, a lot of things that I try to bring in here to my team coming from the gaming industry, how you do software development, how you make the culture around it, what type of meetings do you run in the office and so forth, and create a culture here where people really love to go to work. Yeah. So I cannot summarize it in such a short time, but it's something that everyone should really look into. The gaming industry has some great stuff that I think every industry can learn from.
Sounds like that year was good value for you.
It was fantastic, and you don't need to dress up for work either. That's another good part.
Okay, yeah, and the gaming industry has grown immensely. We have some companies here at Lindholmen with really rapid growth, and they're also interacting more with other sectors. For example, the game engines that are being used by many companies outside of gaming. How do you see that the gaming industry and the automotive industry maybe will continue to merge or cooperate in the future?
Now, but I think a little bit what I talked about before. I mean, when it comes to that, you have more support in like than a car, for instance. I mean, you can already see that some car makers start to implement games in the cars, right? Some make their own games, some make platforms for gaming companies to implement their games, right? So I even saw, it was a while, but you can buy a car and you get like a console from a game company, when you bought the car and some games, right? Because it was integrated. So I think that as an offering and, to get the customer to really feel like, okay, this hangs together in some way is one way. The other part you mentioned is that I think that from how you develop things, I mean, I think in the car industry, many sharing the same challenges, that the software goes faster than the hardware. And you try to find different way to adapt to that digitalization. Here, the gaming industry was very early on, like you said, making like a game engine and differentiate between what is the engine and what is the game. And that type of logic I have implemented a lot in many of my past jobs, but also trying to do here. I think it's very successful because you then share a lot of technology, and instead every game can focus on the customer experience and their niche, what they are doing. So I think there is a lot of learnings and exchange there, right, from the different businesses.
And if we stay on the example of the gaming industry, they really have the user experience as a core of their business model. They get really early and instant feedback from the users and players, and sometimes the players co-create the product. How do you at ECARX make sure that you get feedback from your customers and users, and how do you incorporate that on a practical level in your development process?
I mean, now we are a quite big company, but if I take it from the small side here, I mean, when you have a system in place in a car, you are following that, right? And you have, as I said before, updates, and you make sure that the system is continue live in the car in a good way, right? So I think that is one way to do it. But what we also do here to get the right product or the inspiration of the product we are creating, we drive a lot of different cars. And we loan cars from each others, and we hire some cars sometimes to get different experience. We take the teams. So, okay, take Peter's car today, and go and drive and test out the infotainment system, come with feedback, not that we send that to the car maker, but, for our inspiration, right? And we are really in the details then that, okay, it took too many clicks or whatever it is like. I lend out cars to family members sometimes, to try out, in particular cars that comes from the Geely group to get, second opinions. So that's one way one alternative just to get inspiration, but as well get some feedback, right? And then nowadays, which is good and bad, but you have a lot of social medias where owners of different cars creates a lot of feedback. They make a group in Facebook, and then they talk about the car and you pick it up. So many of the car brands following this, and that comes back to us as well.
Okay, so ECARX in 10 years, where do you think you're at?
Oh, wow. I think we are still a super great company, probably very globalized, and I hope I still will be there.
So nice talking to you, Peter.
Likewise.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Appreciate.
Now we will make room for Karin. So Karin Lycke, welcome. You are a service designer and a UX expert, and you're currently working at Visual Arena at Lindholmen Science Park. So I will leave the floor to you, and I will come back with some questions afterwards. Thank you.
When I tell them what I do is, so what do you actually do? So I want to tell you a story to explain this. So this is from App Store, and this is a review that was written around a year ago. And it's in Swedish, so for you who doesn't speak Swedish, I'm gonna read this in English. Tired of life? Download the app. Jealous of your friends having a depression? Download the app. Miss the feeling of a breakdown? Download the app. This app is worse than my previous marriage, and it makes me feel worse than when Snipe killed Dumbledore. 10 out of 10 sadists recommend. Anyone having an idea of where this comes from or what it does review? Well, it is the Stockholm City school platform. So every parent, teacher, or child connected to elementary school has to use this platform. The platform has costed taxpayers around 1 billion SEK, and it's taken 7 years to develop. And the status today, well, it's not in use. So looking back at what actually went wrong, one of the main reasons identified was that it was never tested with the intended users. So when they actually launched it, they realized that no one was actually able to use it, or it was hard to use it. So the aim with the project to increase productivity, it was just the opposite. It increased inefficiency. So is this an exception? You could hope so. But 24 UX professionals recognizing this problem, they came together and they spent their spare time to write a report around this problem. And it's called the $1 Trillion UX Report. And what they realized was the projects that doesn't reach their original aim is actually 15% worldwide. And that comes to a cost of $150 billion a year. So fixing something after it's being launched is doubling the cost of actually doing it right from the beginning. But one of the reasons of this is that we are so focused on tech and that we don't really realize the cost of bad user experience. So in relation to this, what we used to have as a competitive advantage was to compete with price or product quality or the new tech. And there has been a shift. The main factor for competitive advantage nowadays is actually customer experience. And the customers, they expect companies to actually realize their needs and to meet that with an experience that keeps them loyal to the brands. And looking at some numbers, we know that bad UX costs a lot of money. And realizing the customer experience or focusing on customer experience is actually also generating revenue. So Forrester, a couple of years back, they did some research on this. And what they found was that every dollar invested in user experience gives you $100 back. And why is this? It's because of the customer acquisition. It's because of lowering the cost of customer support. It's because of customer retention, and it increases the market shares. And of course, we just heard Peter speaking. This has also been acknowledged by the car industry. The focus of customer experience. And we are actually in this shift of being focused on technology. We've been having a paradigm where we were developing business from a technology-centered point of view. And we are now entering a paradigm where we actually develop business from a user-centric point of view. And in this transition, and this is an article from McKinsey written last year, and what they are saying, if you want to stay relevant and you want to stay ahead of competition, put the customer experience in the driving seat. But what they also state is that if you want this transition to happen to user-centric customer or business development, leadership has to be on top of it. Management has to realize the importance of user experience and developing the business out from a user perspective. And we have to realize that every interaction within a company that has a user also has a user experience, which could be improved. And the company realizing that all of these interaction points also has connections. We need to work cross-silo within the organizations and provide a customer experience that is connected. And with what Peter also said, with it becoming more complex, we also need to understand all the interaction points that sits outside of the organization, and the company that will realize, working with the leadership and management and someone keeping that holistic view of the customer experience, is going to be the ones that the customers will choose in the future. So, coming back to what I actually do, this was the long story. So the short answer is I work with developing businesses from a user-centric point of view. So UX sits in the sweet spot between the user needs, the business goals or the organizational value, and technology and feasibility. So in September, I started working with Lindholmen Science Park and the pre-study of the UX arena. And we were super curious to understand the state of design in the region. And we created a survey and to grasp the UX maturity within companies on the West Coast. And one of the questions that we were curious to get the answer to what obstacles an organization had to invest in UX. And it turns out that 50% were saying it was because of a skeptical management. So even though that we have very prominent companies in automotive, mobility, we have Spotify, we have the SaaS companies, we also have a lot of organizations that has a low maturity of user experience, which is a problem. We actually overlook this important ingredient in the technology revolution. So this is one of the challenges that we think that UX Arena could support in. The other thing that the company said was that they actually lack competence. They can't find people with the right type of UX skills. And looking at some numbers, I was looking at LinkedIn last day. So these are the numbers from yesterday. So yesterday, it was nearly 500, or it was 512, I think, 512 open positions for UXers in the region. In Sweden, we have 3,000 open positions for UXers. In comparison, that is 100 more than for teachers. And everyone knows there is a lack of teachers. To compare it with AI, it's almost 1,000 more positions in Sweden open for UX than for AI. So we actually have this obsession with tech coming from the tradition of in Sweden. We have an engineering tradition, but I truly believe that we need to combine it with the human factor. Looking at a graph here, and this is a graph from Nielsen Norman Group, which is a UX foundation in the States. And they predict that we need 100 million people with UX competence by 2050. Today there is 1 million. So we need a lot of people with this skill to actually be able to move forward in society. And with the digitalization and the green transition, everything that we need to do in the society for it to be a society that we want to live in. And we're already lacking behind. So there is no real strategy in the region and no real strategy nationally to address this. And we also believe that looking at talent or filling this gap of skilling people, upskilling people, reskilling people is one of the challenges that the UX arena could also address. So we also truly believe that we have an obligation to the citizens and the society and the businesses to empower the practice of user experience. We need to complement the tech revolution with looking at human values, both short-term and long-term, if we want to succeed with the transitions needed in society. And UX is also identified as one of the top skills if we want to succeed with the green revolution. We have a long journey ahead, but also great opportunities.
Thank you very much, Karin, for that talk. You have really made a case for UX, that we need it, why we need it, and the challenge with educating and attracting enough UX talent. What do you think speaks to our advantage, Lindholmen, Gothenburg, Sweden, if user experience continue to grow as an important perspective in business development?
Well, I think Lindholmen is a place with a lot of great competence in one place. It's like a high density of competence. And user experience can't really stand on its own. It's always in combination with other competences in every development that we need to do. And we have so many great initiatives at Lindholmen. And I really see that user experience can complement all of those initiatives and be that secret sauce that empowers the development.
Yep. So could you give us an example of a company that has been successful in respect to UX?
Well, I can give you an example of a project where user experience made a difference. So ECA, they were looking at the food waste, and we are actually throwing away like tons of food every year. And the stores are throwing away a lot of food. And when they were observing the users in store, what they realized was that we always, even if we are looking for something to eat tonight, we are looking
Always go at the back.
the longest expiration dates, right? So they realized to turn that behavior around, they needed to reduce the price of the short expiration dates and also making it visible for the customers. So now they can scan the product and realize what the cost reduction is. So what we are doing and what they were doing was actually supporting the people and with like affordable food, saving the planet, and supporting the stores as well. Oh, I should say for you who doesn't know, ECA is a grocery store and food chain. One of the main in Sweden.
Yeah, no, that's a great example.
But also what I want to add there is that is just one channel. So the companies that are going to succeed with the user using user experience as a business development tool need to look at all the touch points and providing that 360-degree user experience if you want to stay atop.
So when you talk about the public sector, we have the school example and how important UX is for both democracy and an efficient use of tax money. Do you feel that the awareness exists today about that?
Well, it is increasing, but we are lacking behind. It's like we have a depth already in the digital development, but also in the understanding of user experience. And like I said, we have a very big focus on technology, but we need to complement that with the understanding of the user experience, because technology that is not in use has no value. So there is absolutely a job that needs to be done in raising this awareness within citizens and in public sector.
So if you could speak to all the CEOs in Sweden, I bet some of them are watching right now, what would you recommend them to do if they feel that they are lacking behind in their organization? Maybe they haven't gotten that far in incorporating UX in their business model. What is the first steps to take, you think?
Well, I think one great step is to start reflecting, like, who are our users and how many touch points do we actually have and how are they being connected. But as a small step, just start to think about the question, what would happen if we were listening to our users and if we were inviting them to actually co-create the business together with us? So start listening, but also seeking for role models, because we do have a lot of companies that are doing this today with a great success. So find these companies, find those leaders, phone them, speak to them, and start just listening to the people that has done this already.
Yeah. And if we have viewers that want to join or follow your work, aiming for a collaborative UX arena, how can they do that?
Well, they are free to contact me or my colleague Anna, who is running the pre-study. And we are super curious to hear from any company what their needs for UX are. So pick up the phone or send us an email.
Yeah. And I mean, you have worked with many different brands, big companies, organizations. What has it been like to belong to the innovation platform here at Lindholmen Science Park? What has been the experience for you comparing to your consultancy work for other companies?
Well, I think the biggest difference is that this Lindholmen Science Park is cross-siloed from the beginning. That is how it's built up. And it has so many people from different parts of, like, the innovation system. And I think that has been important to see how can we team up with people that actually are driving the innovation development in Sweden. And Lindholmen also has this structural capital of knowing how to efficiently collaborate. And that is the future of collaborating across silos, across borders. So that has been super important to just embrace all the competence that is out there and complement as one part of the innovation development.
Thank you so much, Karin. It will be very interesting to follow your work and see if we can get even more awareness in the region and in Sweden about the need for UX awareness and talent recruitment. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And then welcome back to Stefan.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was our first Lindholmen International Talks.
Yes.
How do you think it went?
I think it was super interesting, to be honest. And I was reflecting behind the scenes that today we are doing a touchdown here at ECARX. And our intention is to really do this from all the different cool companies that we have here at Lindholmen, right?
Yeah.
So I think that the viewers out there probably are thinking of what will we present next time?
Yeah. And we are also
we
thinking
are
about that. And we will absolutely be back with another international talks. And we invite all of you to join us, of course. And also, if you have suggestions on which topics or which people we should invite from our community here, just feel free to reach out to us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So thank you for today. Have a great weekend and hopefully see you next time. Goodbye.